Dr. Jazz.
How are you? All good?
Dr.
Good, yeah, everything is good.
Thanks for
You?
finding the time. You must be like super busy. What I saw, it's incredible.
Always something going on.
Yeah, it's great. It's
Sure
fantastic.
for you.
Yeah. Uh, I'll just jump in. I wanted to ask you. I saw some footage on YouTube. You playing with Dave Holland's new quartet, and wow, how did you end up on that gig? And yeah.
Well, how did I end up on that gig? I got this award from the Jazz Gallery, called the Margaret Whitten Award, and it was to be mentored by someone. And so I asked Dave if he would mentor me,
Oh,
and he wasn't so sure. He was busy, and then he said no in the end. And then we ended up playing together on Walter Smith and Matt Stevens' record in common. And I think we had a good time playing. So then he asked if I would play in the quartet, and we played a little duo show leading up to that. And yeah, we've just been playing in these different configurations, which is really cool.
yeah. How is it to play in his band? I mean, he is a band leader.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah, he's he loves to he loves to rehearse. He likes to be
Oh, really?
prepared, and
Okay. Well,
that's been really fun, just to get together and play, wherever at our house or rehearsal studio, and work through the music. And he's a super open musician and thinker, and super, just honored to be in his presence and see what he thinks about music and how he organizes his bands. And we've been playing the same set with that quartet. I don't know how many shows we've done now, but we've played the same tunes in the same order every gig so far.
oh, wow. How does that go then for you, like personally?
It's cool because it's like becomes this whole suite, this whole
Oh, yeah.
program.
Yeah.
So we each contributed a piece, and Dave has a couple tunes in there, and the whole thing, just feels like this arc that we go through now. So it's different every time, and really fun.
And you're guys gonna record that this year, or?
Yeah, we're going to play at Smoke in September for 5 days, and then he's going to record it as a live record.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. That's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear it, like, what Dave's been doing, like a little bit more inside. I hate this term, but like still, I heard one tune, like it's really a groove tune. I don't know the title on YouTube. It's like the whole thing. It's almost like a blues, and you're there like killing it, and the sheet on drums, like beautiful.
Oh, it's probably his tune.
Brand New Day, or what is that it? No, or I don't know the title.
I think it might be Bring It Back Home.
Oh, that's it.
That's
That's
kind
it.
of
That's it.
yeah,
That's it.
bluesy tune of his. That's a cool tune.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool to hear you then. Beautiful, fantastic. Otherwise, I saw you were on tour also with Robert Hurst and Jonathan Blake, and in July. And is this also something new you've been preparing, or was that just like a tour?
We have I have a new trio record coming out with them at the end of September,
Oh,
and we played at the Vanguard in January and got all the music together. And yeah, so we have a show at South Eldon the end of August, and then the album comes out, and then we're doing a lot of playing and touring in the next year. So
Oh, wow. So, okay.
yeah, really fun trio. And
Yeah,
I
love
wrote
them.
I wrote some different music for that, so it's fun. It's very Jerry Allen inspired.
Oh, really? Okay. I listened to, I mean, I've been listening to you since The Slightest Shift and those early records. I mean, I was on Fresh Sound as well back then. I think I bought every record. And how has your composing changed in your own eyes, or even the approach since then, or even now? I mean, there are some things that remained, like kind of these cells ideas, I think, or creating different spaces. But like you as a composer? How have you evolved? Or
That's a good question. Well, I always felt like the first record I made called Lifespan, that's on Fresh Sound. That was my I think I was 21 when I made that, and it was very informed by my jazz education in institutions. So after that, the following record called The Slightest Shift was where everything's literally, that's why it's called The Slightest Shift. It was more of a major shift into improvised music and composing for music that's, improvised and composed and blurring the lines between the two. So that was a big change for me. And then I sort of followed that trajectory, writing a lot of music that was sort of like, is it composed? Is it improvised? And then when I started playing with Terri Lynn Carrington in like 2018, I was kind of back to playing more chord changes and standard forms and things. And, I had all that in my past, but it's not something that I was necessarily pursuing in my own projects. And I don't know, just something about, you kind of you are what you eat, as people say. Like you are what you listen to, what you participate in. And so I started getting back into playing tunes, playing changes, but kind of coming at it from this other aesthetic of all the stuff that I brought before that through improvised music and composition. So this is a long way of saying that I think that my music now is sort of lying somewhere between mainstream jazz and improvised music. Yeah, but I've been checking out Geri Allen's music a lot the last 5 years, doing the tribute. Yeah, when she passed away, I started working with Terri, and Terri put these tribute concerts together, and we played a lot of her music, and I got to meet a lot of people that played with her and were inspired by her. And just through studying that music and being exposed to it and, and teaching it, I think it's seeped in ways that are sort of unconscious. But as I hear the new record, I hear the influence. So.
Oh, okay, I'll keep that in mind. I mean, I still think Geri's so underrated. She was such a great composer and player. I mean, some records.
Yeah, I think she's getting more attention now.
Yeah,
which is really great to see.
Yeah. What was she like? I mean, you mentioned Geri Allen, but who were the main reasons for you as a piano player? Or when you were a teenager, I guess, that you said shit, I want to explore jazz or improvise. Did you have a moment that you heard a specific record, or did it go gradually? Or
yeah, there was a moment. I heard Herbie Hancock play on Miles Davis, My Funny Valentine 4 more, and heard that, and I was like, that's it. I want to play like Herbie Hancock. I love that interplay between Tony Williams and Herbie. So that was kind of it. And then also Keith Jarrett, hearing his trio albums.
Oh, okay.
Live at the Deerhead Inn, I think was the first one that I had.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful one.
Yeah, so those were the two people for me that I was obsessed with, and I was transcribing all their solos and, really trying to get in. And then later on, it was Bill Evans and Bud Powell. And so I kind of went through a very more mainstream jazz early education. And then when I moved to New York in 2001, that's when I started getting more into improvised music, and I was listening to Paul Bley, Cecil Taylor, Marilyn Crispell, but also thinking a lot about my contemporary classical influences and how I could bring those into improvised music. And that's where the interesting things start to happen.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's
where you see the parallels in how contemporary classical music can be used for improvisation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that too. Yeah, sometimes I listen to a Bartok or whatever, or a string quartet, and I'm like, shit, one melody, and I write it, and I write a whole tune out of that. It's just,
yeah, exactly.
Not borrowing, just inspired by some well, shit, man, what is this? And then whoosh, I love this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I was trying to get out of playing playing chord changes and like how do you deal with the piano as an instrument in improvised music when you want it to be more spontaneous and group composition based. It's hard to do that as a piano player when you're like laying down the harmony for everybody. They all have to come to you. And so that idea of wanting to be more conversational, be more equal in how we develop harmony was, for me, that journey came through classical music and contemporary classical music. People like Morton Feldman and György Ligeti and Barrio. Yeah.
Like when you moved to New York in 2001, how was it like for you? You know, who were the first gigs you got, and when did you become a band leader? Because Lifespan then happened quite quickly, right within a year or 2 years. Like, how was that story with you?
Yeah, sorry, my email's about to ding. Sorry,
Oh, no.
I forgot to turn it off. I moved there in 2001. Actually, it was 2 weeks before September 11th. So I thought I was like going into New York. You know, it was like New York, and then of course everything changed and never really went back to what it was totally. Yeah, I don't know. I tried to like get some things happening as a side person and set up sessions and meet people. I didn't go to school in the States, so I just kind of showed up. I went to like a summer program at the Banff Center for the Arts, and I met, I spent like 3 weeks there, and I met a bunch of people like Tony Malaby and Angelica Sanchez and Ben Monder, bunch of people, and then also people now that you probably know on the scene that were students at the time. So it gave me like a little edge into like knowing a few people in New York, but I was pretty like I had to kind of start from zero, which was hard because everybody was like super busy. I'd set up sessions and they would get canceled at the last minute, and man, it would be like so devastating.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is, like everybody's trying to make a living and keep it moving. So it just was a slower process than I'd experienced when I moved to Toronto, 4 years before to go to school. So the only thing to do was like, well, I want to make music, I want to learn, so I should make my own bands, and start writing. And so you kind of take the bull by the horns and like start, working towards your thing. And it served me well because I used composition as a way to practice as well, practice improvisation, and kind of went back and forth and hand in hand. And it just kept going. Then for a while, I was really only a leader. I was like dying to be a side person because honestly, I think I'm a better side person than I am a leader in some ways.
Interesting.
I like interpreting people's music and trying different things and learning other people's music. And I just was not getting hired as a side person, and that was tough. I didn't know how to like get out of that cycle of only being seen as a leader in this very small circle.
So when did the shift happen? Because I checked my records of you, and then I have you on tons of records. I mean, exaggerating, but like from 2008 on, you're
that
like
was it.
So many records, like really.
2008. That was the time. Yeah. I started working with Taishan Sori and Ingrid Laubrock in that group, Paradoxical Frog.
Yeah, I love that band. Yeah, that was a great thing.
Yeah, thanks. Which was more collaborative. And there was something about that particular group that opens things up and created new opportunities to play as a side
Especially you and Ingrid really connected, right? I mean, it's kind of...
Yeah, I mean, all three of us had a really
and Taishana as well, yeah.
Yeah, we had a really good run of like writing some interesting and challenging compositions, and that was a really informative moment in my development as a pianist and composer. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Taishan's. Like he had at the same time, I think the other three, Fieldwork, was it right, with VJ?
That's right.
Like those two trios, I was like, man, he's so crazy. We once, I think I invited him to Europe on one of his first tours in 2003, and it was insane. I wrote this 7-8 pagers of tunes, like constant shifting meters, and on the second gig he didn't need any sheet music anymore. It was just like,
yeah, he's
crazy dude. Yeah.
Yes, he's incredible,
Yeah,
incredible player and musical thinker.
yeah. You mentioned Tony Malaby before. Uh, how did you meet Tony, and how was he important for you? Because I know you did the arrangement of Novella, and you guys have cooperated for such a long time. What's your story with Tony?
I met Tony at Banff when I was
Okay.
there in 2000, and he was teaching, and I was having a bit of a hard time, just like I was really young. I was like 19, and I was like, I don't know, it's all this improvised music. Like it was all new to me. But I met Tony, and he was super supportive, and they ended up, call me when you get to New York, and so I did, and I'd go over to his house on the weekends and play sessions and cook a bunch of Mexican food and hang out, and it was good times. And we talk a lot about improvised music, and he encouraged me to start writing and blending written material with improvisation. And then he played in my first groups.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've just had a long musical relationship. And now I teach at Berkeley, and I helped him get a teaching job at Berkeley, so he's up here
exactly.
now.
He's in
And
Berkeley as well.
yeah.
I'm so happy about that.
Yep. So it's nice we're still connected after all these years.
Yeah. It's finally he's getting some recognition, I think. But that's okay. That's a different story. I read this year's Downbeat, talking with one guy about those polls and stuff, and I was like, man, like some of the best, most creative players are never there on the list. It's insane. But yeah, I'll not go there. But I wanted to also ask you, like, you're doing so much work as a side person and as a band leader. How come you decided also for labels, like really good labels? What's the story behind Pyroclastic, which became one of the top 5, I think, labels in creative music or whatever we do? How come you decided to go that path as well?
I got a few grants to make albums, and once I had made the project, I kind of owned them outright, and it didn't really make sense to give it away to a smaller label, which was taking, all the publishing and, all of the stuff, all the things. So I thought, well, let me start a label just as like a name to put my music under, with the hope that I could try to grow it and give other artists opportunities. So I started a not-for-profit that supports the work of the label, in terms of supporting other artists and getting their music out there.
So you basically do everything on your own, like you're the artistic director in a sense, or?
No. Oh no, I mean, I am the president of Pyroclastic. It means I'm overseeing the whole big picture. So there's choosing the artists. It's the whole artistic advisory board. So we have to go through. There's a lot of process involved in terms of when and how they come out. And I have a operations manager, great saxophone player, David Leon, young guy who's been running the label for me. It's daily work for the label, which is a lot. And we have a wonderful PR person, Anne Braithwaite.
Oh yeah, sure.
We have a web guy. We have
okay, so it's like a beast already. Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah, and because it's a not-for-profit, there's a board, so there's all sorts of things you have to do to maintain a good standing in terms of having a not-for-profit, and so it's a lot, but I have help, so that's
fantastic. Good. Yeah, what you're doing, just the really good music coming out. So I love that. Yeah.
Thanks. Can you hear me? Okay, the connection seems a little funny.
Yeah, let me see.
Yep.
I think I'm okay. Yeah, on my side it's all cool. So yeah, I hear you super.
Okay.
You mentioned Terri Lyne Carrington.
Continue on.
Terri Lyne Carrington before, and I know you've cooperated with her a lot now lately. And how did you guys hook up actually? And the importance of her. Actually, she's a bit older, right, than you. So she's been on the scene since mid-80s, I think, almost like, or a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, I used to listen to her, you know, on Herbie's album Gershwin's World,
Oh yeah,
and
exactly.
also on that John Scofield album Flat Out.
Oh
That's
yeah,
where I'd
exactly.
seen her,
Yeah,
first heard her play and seen her name. And so, you know, she just wrote me an email out of the blue and said, "Hey, I'm a fan." And I wrote back, I was like, "Hey, I'm a fan." And so from there, she just do you want to do some playing? So we went to Taipei and played a show.
Mm.
And then shortly after that, Jerry Allen passed away. And, you know, Jerry and Terri were very close collaborators and friends. And Terri wanted to pay tribute to her. So I played a lot of those concerts. And we just started working together in these different capacities. And then she teach at the Berklee Institute of Jazz and Gender Justice that she started in 2018. And so we teach together, we play in each other's groups. We're very close collaborators and friends.
Yeah, so she's also on the Life at the Village Vanguard from last year, right? Also, Diatom Ribbons.
She's
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, she's in that project. So the Diatom Ribbons, it came out in 2019, and then the Vanguard album. She's on both of those.
I love the live one, especially, you know, being a guitarist, and so nice to hear Julian also Lage in this other context in your group. You know, he's more famous for kind of this melodic playing that he does in his own trio, but so nice to hear him in your group. Like, how did you connect with Julian? It's beautiful to hear you guys together.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you like his playing on the album. We've been playing together as a duo for like many years. He's on my album Duopoly.
Yeah.
From 2016, I think.
Yeah.
And since then, that's when we met, and we just continued on playing duo shows and working together. And I just recorded for his project and the Speak to Me project, and so again, just knowing each other from various projects and situations.
Yeah, like I said, I love that he's in this group because it's such a different spark he adds to the music. So nice.
Yeah, it's very different musical environment than his projects.
Yeah,
it's really exciting to hear. I always am like, I want more Julian fans to listen to the album.
Yeah, just to throw him into this different boat of your music. Like, it's like, okay, slightly uncomfortable, but he nails it, and it's so beautiful to hear that. Yeah. You mentioned Duopoly. Like, there's also Bill Frisell on that record, and you know, some monster players, obviously, anyway, on that record. But like, how did you meet Bill?
I met Bill through Kermit Driscoll, who's the bassist that
he did that record. Oh yeah, with Vinny and stuff.
That's right.
I wanted to ask you about that record, which is but anyway, sorry.
So I did this record with Kermit Driscoll, who was the bassist that used to play with Bill and Joey Barron. And he wanted to do this project, so he recorded the quartet with Vinny Colaiuta and Bill and I. So that's where I met Bill.
How was that record, by the way? Especially Vinny on drums, because I know Vinny and Bill and Kermit go back into late 70s already. You enter into that band.
Oh, I was like super starstruck. Like, I loved Vinny's music so much. So meeting him was incredible. Of course, I love Bill's music, but you know, Vinny was like there's a few people, you know, and you're here in high school and you're just like, oh, that's amazing. And Vinny was one of those people. So it was really cool to meet him and get a chance to play. Super, super nice, supportive person.
Yeah, I love his playing, you know, since Sting and even earlier. And then Kermit told me about that record, and I was like, really? Vinny? And then he told me the story, of course, that those guys know each other for 40 years or longer. So quite cool, actually. Yeah. What still, you mentioned like a tour with Robert and Jonathan, and I saw you also coming to Europe in the fall. what's coming up you have a new record in September, you're recording with Dave Holland new record. I mean, so what are kind of the future plans or?
Just a lot of touring and a lot of playing this year. The trio, we're doing like a US run in October, and Dave's got a couple tours, and then I'm doing a tour in Europe with Diatom Ribbons with Terri and Val, and Nick Dunstan's going to play bass on that tour. And the next year is busy. I have another week at the Vanguard with the trio, and we're going to Europe twice, and I'm doing all sorts of teaching. I teach at Berkeley, as I mentioned. I'm also going to do some work with the Focus Year project in Basel, which I think will be my 4th or 5th year going. So I do a week of composition and then a week of working with the group.
You mentioned that before, that you kind of almost prefer to be a side person, but you've done so much now as a leader. How have you evolved as a band leader? I mean, if you look back in the early days and now, I mean, now you must be like really check, or how does it go in your eyes?
I don't know. It's like it's a kind of a balance. Like I've been doing a lot of side person work the last few years, playing with Terry's group and now playing with Dave's group, a few other things, and then my project Diatom Ribbons, which I was playing a lot with that group before the album came out. Yeah. So when the album came out, it was kind of like, oh, I don't know how much more work will come from this. So I'm really glad that we're doing this European tour. But I don't know, it just feels like this. I kind of get this sense of like, okay, now I've had a lot of time like studying and playing other people's music and being part of that. And then something starts to itch at me like, oh, you start writing and create a new project. And I seem to have like a limit in terms of how many albums I do. Like with one band, like Diatom, we've got 2 albums. That'll probably be it for the project. I recorded a 3rd album with the band called Borderlands Trio with.
I wanted to ask you if that's still alive or coming to Europe or.
Yeah, we were in Europe last December, and we play frequently, I guess, if we say like once a year. But we've been playing together like 8 years now, maybe 8 or 10 years, and we just recorded a 3rd album that came out, and it's a cool project because it's totally improvised, and we just have a very unique and special connection. But because it is improvised, I like to like have the thing of writing something and working towards, something challenging and trying to hash it out on the road. So I think that's what I was missing and that's why I wanted to play with this trio. And, Jonathan, I heard him like 20 years ago. Oh man, I really want to play with Jonathan. Like he's so amazing. And the same with Robert. And so when I got this chance to play at the Vanguard, I'm like, I'm going to ask them, and it was really fun, and they're into it, which is more than half the battle. When you're booking a tour. So we have lots of good fun stuff planned.
How do you stay fresh on a tour? Because, I sometimes struggle with myself when it's like a 2-week tour, and then gig 8, I'm sick of myself playing, or like, do you have issues like that, or how do you stay fresh creatively, or?
I don't know. That's a good question. I totally have that issue.
You do? Okay, I'm happy then. Sorry, but it sounds bad.
But sometimes I think it's just part of it, like every musician should have the chance to be sick of themselves.
Okay.
A lot of times we only get like 1 or 2 gigs, because it's so hard to get the opportunities. So when you have a tour, and that's what I wish for my students, is like go out and play the same music every day, and see what comes of that. I have certain things that I do if I feel, because I don't want it to feel like a Broadway show. Exactly. I want to feel like it's developing, and we're taking it in different places. And sometimes it's just different tactics of like, let's say I'm playing and then I hear like I'm playing a line and then I go for the next line and I notice that like, I don't know, maybe I'll just say, okay, I'm just going to wait for the second idea, so there's maybe don't play the next idea, wait, and then catch the next wave and see where that goes.
Yeah.
Or maybe if I'm improvising with two hands, I'll just say, oh, let me just play with just one hand right now and see, So there's sometimes like these limitations in games that I use in composition. I'll sometimes apply that when I'm on the road.
Yeah, you have to keep. Yeah, I remember I did one tour with Malaby years ago, and we did an amazing first gig in Austria. And it was my tunes, and we played it. I remember first tune on that gig, amazing. Like we went into the zone, and then second gig we played in Germany, same set list actually. And I go into the same zone, right, on the first tune, and my eyes closed, I'm playing, and there's like no tone. I'm like, shit, man, what's wrong? I'm still pushing the same vibe. Okay, it didn't work. And then after the gig, I'm like, hey, Tony, I'm sorry. What did I do something wrong? He was like, yeah, man. I mean, different audience, different vibe. It's like we don't go in the same zone. I don't feel like the same. I was like, shit, man, yeah.
Yeah.
How to learn, from these guys also. Just
yeah, and some of those things happen naturally. You're just like
Yeah.
exhausted from the day, or the room sounds different,
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly.
But yeah, when I'm sick of myself, sometimes I'll give myself a little prompt, because
Yeah.
just to like lead it, and even something very simple like that,
No,
it
it's
always
smart.
ends up
It's
somewhere
smart,
else.
Keep in mind. Kris, not to take too much of your time, I just wanted to ask you also, like, are you still pursuing the solo piano path also, or what's the story there?
Maybe, I don't know. I'm thinking I'm taking a break from that a little
Oh,
bit,
okay.
just because the pandemic like was all solo piano, and
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I want to play with people right now.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's what impro is about. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
fantastic. Cool.